this early on, but then with COVID, a lot of people weren't comfortable with in-person, so we sent out a mailer so everyone could go online and ask some questions, and we could do a video, and didn't get much response, and we still had a lot of questions. And so after an opposition petition came out recently with some things that were not true, we wanted to make sure to get everybody together so we can set everyone's mind at ease and really help them understand the truth and what's going on. So thank you. I'm sorry if it was last minute. That's why there's a sign-up sheet going around. If you could sign in, we won't share your information anywhere else, but it gets really tiring going door to door. We've done a Facebook group and we've done a Nextdoor group trying to get everybody in one spot, but there's a lot of people not online, and so it's just real hard to get in touch with everybody at once. And so anything you can do to make it easier, that way we can make sure to get noticed to everyone. We appreciate that. So we're going to start. I've got some of the basics. I know what a lot of the major questions have been so far. We're going to address the background, why we're even doing this. Most people know, I think, but there are a lot of people that are still not understanding, like, why. Why do we even have to do this? We came out here to be rural. We want to be rural. Just leave us alone. I can tell you from speaking to everyone we've spoken to, we all feel the same way, trust me. We all have that in common. We're not trying to become the next Overland Park. We're not trying to become the next big development, anything like that. What we are doing is really to protect our investment in our future so that we can continue living this lifestyle. And so we'll address all of that. Bear with me if you know the facts, because there's some people that don't. And so as we go through, I won't get too deep in the details of why, but we'll address them. And then if you have more questions later, there's some paper we've handed out. There's some more back there at Marla at the sign-in table if you need some. Jot down your questions while I'm going through so that when we're finished, any of the questions and answers you came with, if I've given you some more after we go through this, we can really make sure that when we leave here, we want everyone to really understand what's going on so that when we show up on the 23rd, everybody that is for this and understands, we can show up and show Miami County our support that we want this, we need this. Unless you have another idea, Miami County, that can stop it, which they'll tell you there's nothing, we want to protect what we have. And so write down those questions so when we leave here tonight, we are all on the same page. Some people may still disagree, and I understand that. I wish there was another way that we could just stay out here peacefully for what we came for. But let me tell you the background of why we're here. So we are incorporating the unincorporated. I know the name city sounds so scary, it sounds big. It's just the only option. That's what Kansas has. They have classes of city. Class 1 being your bigger, Class 3 being your smaller, like in Edgerton or Fontana. We are incorporating, and by doing that, that makes us a Class 3 city. Doesn't mean we have to go crazy. We can have our monthly city council meeting and things like that so that we can keep being a viable city. But we're incorporating. That's what we're doing. And that incorporation, just like it does in business, is going to protect us legally from outsiders. What we learned through all of this and everything that's going on in Johnson County to the north right now, this is not a county thing. This is a state thing. They can cross the county line. We're not protected. All Edgerton has to do is literally touch a corner of any property, and the property owner says, I'd like to be part of Edgerton, and they say, okay, come on in, and then they annex you. And then as soon as they do that, now their planning and zoning takes effect. So what you were protected in the county and the comprehensive plan and everything that we all read before we moved out here and thought we were protected no longer applies. Now it's Edgerton's building and planning and zoning and everything. Their city council, they make decisions in the future. And when everyone to the north has found out, right, that you go there hundreds at a time and you say, this is not fair, we don't want this in our backyard, and they say, they've literally said this, it sucks to be you. We wouldn't want to be in your shoes, but we have to do what's best for Edgerton. Yeah. And so this is the statute, KSA 12-520. This is called a consent annexation. This is why the Edgerton border is at the county line. So if you look, it might be kind of hard to see, but if you see this little narrow section, I'll point here, the little narrow section right here, that's what got them across Gardner Road. That happened December of 2020. They lied. They said they're going to build for houses. It's a completely different company that bought it, although looking in the back end, we found out North Point just used another name. Imagine that. They use holding companies and everything to disguise themselves, and it's just another North Point company. They got across Gardner Road, they bought what they needed so that they can touch that 650 acres that they've owned for the last several years. Because they weren't contiguous or touching, they couldn't go to Edgerton and ask for permission to rezone. And so they had to go through the county. Well, the county protects us, Johnson County. They have a code in place for this. They say 1 home every 10 acres. In Miami County right now, it's 1 every 20. And so there was nothing they could do at that point without going through the county. And in 2019, the county already decided that industrial was not appropriate next to residential. They said they're incompatible. One is the least restrictive, one is the most restrictive. They have no business next to each other. So they needed to touch Edgerton. And when they bought that little section that looks like Oklahoma flipped upside down, that got them the corner. That's what they needed. They were able to buy the little 5 acres across the street. So if you ever hear, oh, North Point pays $50,000 an acre, only when they have to. Only when it's the chess piece they need to make their next move. We hear reports it's typically more about 14 to 17,000 an acre. So that is the section that is now officially Edgerton, Kansas, and as of April 22nd, it's approved and it's been rezoned to LP Logistics Park for 11 Amazon warehouses totaling 9 million square feet. Right there. That's Gardner Road to Moonlight Road, 199th to 215th Street. Everybody showed up and said this is highly inappropriate. There's 3 lawsuits right now and everybody says good luck. And so that's what we're fighting. That's why we're saying, up there they say we were too late. They already bought the land. Out here we're saying, let's seal up that border and protect what's ours. Let's incorporate, because if you look at the second picture, that's Edgerton's new city limits on the south side of I-35. And so I'm sorry if you can't see, and come up later, I'll be happy to show you closer. But they weren't even supposed to be south of I-35. All of the 2013 Southwest Intermodal Plan said no intermodal south of I-35. That was a plan that was in place with Johnson County, with Gardner and Edgerton, and every Hillsdale Water Board, the RAPS Board, everybody said this is not appropriate. This is a conservation district. It needs to be protected. This is rural residential. And everything was supposed to go to the north. And they got the plan approved and they got in, and then they put in the water plant. And the moment they put in that water plant south of I-35, Edgerton now had property south of I-35. And what happens if you have property? Somebody can touch that property. And the moment they can touch, then they can ask to be annexed. 17 properties in December of 2017 were annexed by North Point south of I-35. So Kubota, Hostess, 2018, you guys showed up in droves, didn't you? And said, don't do this. This is not appropriate. And what did they say? Go home eventually? We're tired of hearing you? They don't care. I mean, that's the worst part about this. And we have tried so hard. We have contacted the FBI and the KBI, and we say a company shouldn't be running the government. This isn't right. We've asked the Attorney General. He says, hire an attorney. And we've asked the governor. She says, what's it doing to the environment? And we tell her, and we've never heard from her since. We ask our representatives. They say, well, by law, they're following the law. And so back in 2019, I found out this thing about the law that says they can't annex if it's incorporated. And so I went to the meetings at the Southwest Board in June of 2019, and I told everybody along Gardner Road, I said, if you guys start a city out here, because they were telling us at the Southwest Board, we need to allow this rezoning for an individual. And I said, the moment you do that and you allow LP Logistics on the east side of Gardner Road, you have just set a precedent. When all those 650 acres come up, they're going to say, well, what's right next door for zoning? And they're going to say, it's LP. And they'll say, oh, well, come on in. And so I said, we can't have that precedent be set. And they told me at the Southwest Board then, they said, when that time comes, we will never see it. It will never go through Johnson County. It will go through Edgerton, and they'll make all the decisions. And I was looking at the statutes then, and I said, don't hand it to them. Everybody here, incorporate. Form this city out here. If Gardner can't get to you, and I was talking to the Johnson County people then up along 199th and Gardner Road, said if Gardner can't get to you, incorporate your own city. Everybody out here, you can form that wall. It was too soon. Nobody understood the threat because it hadn't crossed yet. And so now, what you've got, if you look in that area, if it's not highlighted blue, it's unincorporated county surrounded by logistics park. Those are homes. The Edgerton is not making the whole area be turned into logistics park. They're literally allowing these homes to be surrounded. because North Point or whatever developer they favor, which is North Point, they're not making them buy the homes. They're letting them go buy raw farmland for a price per acre, which has no homes and outbuildings. Well, the people on 3 and 5 acres that have a $500,000 property, by the time you have a home and an outbuilding, they're saying, well, we give $15,000 an acre. Well, nobody wants $75,000 for their $500,000 property, but nobody wants to live in an industrial park, and nobody wants to sell it to someone and then they come and live in an industrial park, because if that was fine to live in an industrial park, they wouldn't have moved to begin with. And so it's called surround and drown. I talked to another developer about this. He goes, oh yeah, it's just a game they play. They surround you until you emotionally and mentally give up. And everybody on the west side of Gardner Road, that's about where they're at. They're to the point they don't even want to stand up and speak out against it anymore, because they're like, if we're quiet, maybe they'll buy us. And they're sitting. Well, what happened? They didn't buy them. They jumped a mile. And now they went from Waverly at Hostess all the way over Gardner Road. They skipped everything in between. So if it's not highlighted, it's unincorporated county, it's surrounded, and nobody's making eminent domain come in and pay fair market value so that you can at least get out. They're just leaving them there. And so that's what we're dealing with. If you look at this slide, the border here is what you saw in the petition to incorporate. That is the proposed boundaries. And if you look to where the brown and the yellow is, you can see brown is Edgerton, yellow is the proposed boundary of Golden. And so we would propose that the county line down. Some people that are further south said, why are you including me? We just are coming together as an area in this basin, kind of between those wings, to say we're a community, we're the Hillsdale watershed, we don't want this, but we are going to come together and preserve what we have so that we can continue to have good property values, so that we can sell to someone down the road and they can come in and know that one day they're not going to wake up with getting a letter in the mail that they're getting a logistics park in their backyard. And so by doing this, everybody knows right now rural property is at a premium. When it goes on the market, they're selling as fast as they can. People are trying to get out of the city, but the properties over on the west side of Gardner Road have been on the market since 2017. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants to be there. And so doing this will preserve what we have. And so on the next slide, as you can see, in the March 10th Miami County Republic, they were talking about the comprehensive plan that they're doing right now. And a lot of people say, I just want Miami County to keep protecting me. And Shane Kroll, the county administrator, he told you right here, he said, if the county puts in a policy that environmentally makes sense to protect the asset, which was the watershed, fast forward a day or a year, somebody sells a large tract of ground to whatever group that it is. We don't have a say in it. Never have, never will, Kroll said. Next thing you know, they're asking for annexation to the city of Edgerton, presuming that Edgerton makes it down to the county line, which they were as of that writing, and can take the next step over through consent annexation. As you know, we don't have a say in that. We may not even know about it until it's recorded with the Register of Deeds. Next thing, oddly enough, they rezone it from agriculture to whatever zoning it takes for a 500,000 square foot intermodal facility. They're actually $1 million. And again, we don't have none of the area cities do. Definitely doesn't. And that's what one of the statutes says. I know in your handout, you guys got 14 points plus 2 they added for what they're going to consider. If you read the statute, it actually says these are guidelines. They don't say they're facts. They just say these are guidelines plus other factors. My argument to that is other factors. What do the people want? You're here to represent the voice of the people, and so that should be the most important factor. But if you fast forward about 2 more statutes after that, one of the things it says is that the counties would have to deny us if a city within 5 miles could, quote, better serve our interests. Spring Hill has written a letter, and we'll hand it out later. It's wonderful. They recognize that our property rights are being threatened, and this is the only way that we can stop it. Gardner also recognizes that, so they wrote a letter. So 2 of the 3 cities within 5 miles that they would have to deny us for, they're saying, please let these people save themselves. The only one that we're left with, and why we're here, is Edgerton. Edgerton cannot better serve us. In the last couple of decades or more, I'm sorry, I don't mean to not talk over here for you guys, I apologize. In the last couple of decades or more, their population is still 1,700 people. They are literally on the other side of the interstate from us, from where we always thought Edgerton was. Everything that they have done in the last several years has more than quadrupled their land mass, and it's all for intermodal. So everything they've done south of the highway is to burn down the house or tear down the house or to come in and take over. And for all of us out here, that does not better serve us for people to surround us with an industrial park and tear down our homes to build that. And so our argument to that is, because they can't better serve us, we should have the right to protect ourselves and be representatives of ourselves so that we can serve. I mean, we have been the ones paying property taxes out here. We have been the ones being good stewards of the lands. We are the ones that should have the right to continue protecting what's ours instead of waiting until someone comes in and begging them, please don't develop next to my house 30 feet from my window like they're doing with Laura Winslow at 207th Street. They don't care. She's within 1,000 feet of 3 of the major parcels that just turned, and she goes before them and she complains about the truck traffic with her kids driving to school and all of these things, and it falls on deaf ears because there's an agenda that doesn't match our interests. So the benefits of incorporation, besides everything else I've talked about, citizens can elect their own representatives from our city instead of being at the mercy of outside cities to decide our future. We will really be, this is what our country was founded on, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We will be able to come forth and say, this is what works for us. We get to vote on it. Everyone that lives here, and it's not someone else with an outside interest coming in trying to take this wonderful thing. They know we have a wonderful thing. It's beautiful. Citizens of our city can decide which future developments are fit. The Hillsdale Watershed Board has worked tirelessly for years and put countless amount of money into preserving this. They have went before Edgerton and they said, you cannot do this. You cannot put in all this impervious surface. The runoff is going to flood. You're going to destroy the watershed. You're disturbing all of the, I mean, we're not flat terrain, and everybody that thinks, oh, they won't come in Miami County because it's all hilly. Go look over by your house, right? They're tearing the trees down and flatten it right out. They'll go over a creek. I talked to a developer, the same one that talked to me about the surround and drown. He said, oh, we go over creeks. That's no problem. And so everything the Watershed Board has done to preserve this, she's like, this has all been for nothing. All this, and this is where we end up. And nobody listens to them. They went before Edgerton and they said, don't do this. The mayor said to the city administrator, we're following the Kansas Stormwater Management Prevention, right? Oh yeah, okay, we're good. You know, again, deaf ears. We can protect our property values and our property rights from being destroyed by corporate interests in an outsider city. We have the opportunity, like I said, to preserve this area to the point that our property values will be something special. You'll have an asset to hand on to your kids. You will have something to sell if you want to retire and downsize so you don't have land to take care of anymore. You will have that asset that increase instead of decrease. Everyone's home is their largest asset for the most part on their investment. And what we're finding as the people that are coming into the north and they're just trying to get out, you can't depend on that anymore, you know, because it's going down at least 20%. Real estate agents say that if they were to sell a home next to a warehouse compared to one not, you're going to take a 20% hit right off the bat and possibly more depending on what else is around it. So, you know, with the other option, we are literally going to continue to improve our property values, which is why we invest in our property, among other reasons. As I mentioned, we'll have a representative government. So there's a couple of different options in Kansas for the type of government. Our particular one fits better than the city administrator route would be the mayor, city council government. And so again, we get to vote. You know who's representing you. I think it's imperative that people, a farmer runs, someone from a subdivision, someone with small lots, someone with large lots, so that everybody's voice is represented. And that way we can come forth and say, no, that development that's being proposed doesn't fit, or we want to pass ordinances for truck traffic, and you know, whatever it is, you get to decide, and not someone else. How do we keep the corruption out of our borders? That's one of the questions that was asked. And bottom line, what it comes down to, you have to be involved. A representative government doesn't work if we're asleep and not paying attention to who's representing us. You need to know who you're voting for. You know, we'll have maybe one city council meeting a month. I think it's the minimum required by law. Show up, hear what's going on. You know, I have to talk to him to find out the law behind this, but I hate the fact that 3 people can decide the fate of hundreds of people. I think that's not fair. You know, maybe some things we can take to a popular vote instead of allowing the city council to decide, but we have to be involved. We have to know, you know, be contacted. If someone lets you know what's going on, get out there and get involved in that discussion. If someone's running, find out who they are. If suddenly 3 new people show up in the neighborhood and they're running for a city council, we should be questioning that, you know, because are they trying to overturn that majority so that an outsider can come in and infiltrate that? And so representative government of we the people does not work if we the people are asleep.
I'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay, thank you. By the way, this is Bryant Parker. He's just the wonderful man that wrote all of those things in that petition for us. What stays the same? Almost everything. I mean, like I said, this isn't to change anything. This is to preserve everything that we have so we don't lose, so we don't change. I hate the fact that we've had to do this. I love the fact that I finally met my neighbors. Everybody out here, we all are like-minded. We all came here for the same things. School districts, we have 3 different school districts in our area. That's decided by the school district. That doesn't change by your city. So those will stay the same. Water, we will all continue to write a check to Water 7. Nothing needs to change on that. Septic systems, we have them. We don't need sewers. I don't care what people are saying about it. We don't need sewers, do we? Thank you. The law does not require it. Sewers are a practical thing, not a legal thing. If suddenly we start doing subdivisions that are less than 3 acres or some kind of development that doesn't have room for a septic system, then we have to start talking about sewers. That's not something we have to bring or provide. We get to be on our existing system. It doesn't change. It's not a service we have to pay for.
Hundreds of cities in Kansas don't have sewers.
Stillwell still does it. My mother-in-law's still on septic.
The only reason why people got sewers in the first place was back in the 70s, the Nixon administration started giving out free money to put in sewers. Okay? So there's a lot of cities out there that still don't have sewers. Y'all just don't hear about them because they're not in Johnson or Miami County. Please continue.
All right. Fire protection. Ed, where are you at? I don't see you. Ed Rushke? There you are. Our fire stays the same, correct? We have talked to, Ed's a retired fireman, and so that's been one of the concerns. I will tell you this, I just heard the other day, and maybe you know more about it. Right now we are all Fire District 1 out of Gardner. I've been hearing, and I don't know how much this is public or where it's going to go, that we might actually change to Spring Hill in our area, but I don't know that for a fact. So if we get incorporated and we change to Spring Hill, it had nothing to do with us being incorporated. They're working on that anyway. Go ahead. Oh, Gardner is taking over now. Okay, so someone told me the other day it was the opposite. Okay, thank you. And so if you look at your tax bill right now, there is already a line item on there for fire. You're going to pay that, the mill levy that that fire district decided. You're going to still get the same service you're used to. The city taxes are going to have to be raised so that your house is protected. Police protection. This is another one I've heard a rumor on recently. I called the sheriff. I spoke with Wayne Minkley multiple times asking to be here tonight, and he was out of town. But it continues to be the same. Sheriff is a county service. It's paid for in the county. We call the sheriff, they show up. Fontana is a Class 3 city. They do not have their own police department. It doesn't make sense for them to have their own police department. There's not enough people to justify that. And Wayne Minkley confirmed, he said, why on earth would you guys want your own police department? I said, we don't need one at this time. And so he said, no, it's exactly the same. Now, with that said, and that's part of our county tax, there's nothing we need to pay. With that said, if somewhere down the road we decide that something changes and we need more protection than what we're currently getting, we can do what Edgerton does, and we can pay to have an officer be in our area more often. And then based off of what that service is like, they'll tell us what it costs to pay someone to be up there more. I mean, it's just math. If we decide that we want to start our own police department, and we want to have services there through that down the road, say we grow, we have more people, and we want that, the sheriff said, you can still do your local ordinances, and then we can come in for crimes or things that you guys don't want to do. Maybe you do traffic and we do crime. So that's down the road. That's something we can do, but the sheriff is still there for us. But right now, again, going back to what we're preserving today so that we even have a down the road to talk about someday, and that we're not just a big armpit of industrial park that we all left. That's a discussion for later, but right now nothing changes. We still call the sheriff and they still show up. I know someone told me they saw an email from someone from the opposition petition that they're signing, and it said a commissioner told me that The county commissioners control who goes out, if they call the sheriff, or for where the sheriff goes. And if we tell the sheriff not to go to Golden, they're not going to Golden. The sheriff will beg to differ on that because we are county residents who pay county taxes and we have the right to those services. So scare tactics, rumors, I'm not sure. I haven't seen it with my own eyes. It's just what I've heard. Land use. All residents continue the same land use that you're allowed currently in the county. We support all constitutional and property rights. We support the right to farm. We're not incorporating to restrict residents. We're incorporating to protect them, like we already mentioned on this. One thing people really need to think about is what happens if you have a warehouse in your backyard all of a sudden and 4,500 employees start calling the sheriff and saying, somebody's doing target practice and it's scaring our people. They can't even go outside for break. If that's where they think their tax dollars are come from and that's where their allegiance has been because they didn't protect us, then do you think they're going to start trying to do something to make those people feel better and restrict yours? So there is more of a risk, I feel, of your rights being restricted and to do what you want on your land if you allow this development stuff to come in and surround you, because it is incompatible. And that's part of what being incompatible means, is that you're not allowed to do what you used to do on your land because somebody came in and now they're complaining about you. One thing about a city that people said, I don't want them coming in and telling me what to do. We are them. We are them. Like, they are going to come in and tell you what to do if we don't stop this. They are another city, and they will come in and surround you, and they will tell you that this is going to be this, and we're going to build here, and you can talk to your blue in the face, and they don't care. Sad but true. And if we are them, and we are the ones, you live 2 doors down from your city councilman, and you say, hey, what's this development I'm hearing about over on so-and-so's land or subdivision? You talked a bit about people, about the stuff that's going on. You show up at the meetings, and you are one of them. And so that misconception is not true. We're not starting this to just start telling people what to do. We all love our freedoms, and we love our rights, and it's to protect and preserve those, not to change those. Road maintenance. This goes on what stays the same and what could possibly change. And I know that people are here for road maintenance and taxes, and we'll get to all of that, I promise. Road maintenance. J.R. McMahon has confirmed that they understand the statute, just as we understand the statute, that the major collector roads in the county will continue being under the jurisdiction of the county. And if you look on that map here, even though you can't see it, I'm sure from where you're at, let me just use my finger with that one feedback. And I'm upside down. Okay, so over the land, 231st to Gardner Road to 223rd past Cedar Niles. Gardner Road all the way down and back around to where we're at. So those in red and purple, there's no doubt in their mind they continue maintaining those. So the heaviestly traveled roads, the ones that are the highest maintenance, those are county roads that continue to be maintained, period. Call J.R. McMahon, he will confirm that. They're major collector roads. What we're talking about that could change, I'll get to that in a minute on the other ones. And those are the rest of the roads, but they don't have to change, and I'll tell you why. What changes? Someone asked about our zip code. We're probably going to get a new zip code. We don't pay for that. That's a federal thing. I mean, I say that, obviously we pay federal taxes, but your taxes aren't going to go up at a federal level to pay for your new post office if we get one or zip code. The point of that is we don't have a city tax that we have to raise to cover those changes. We'll all have to make the changes, but city tax, there will be a minimal mill levy to cover the expenses necessary to keep our city viable. I am a tax accountant. I do not like the fact that we have to pay taxes. I understand that people are on a budget, and we'll talk about that more in just a minute too. Truck ordinances, we will be able to pass city ordinances that restrict truck traffic to local deliveries only. So if you have a big truck delivering something to you, they can stop at your house and they can deliver, and then they have to get back to the next major road to get them back to a truck road. Every person, I'm sure, has had to deal with the fact that these trucks are cutting through. They come through 255th and Hillsdale up Harmony, back Gardner Road. They're coming down Gardner Road from the north. They're coming across 223rd Street. It's only going to get worse. If we don't do something and they infiltrate, you're going to have even more traffic, just like what they're experiencing up at 199th. If we do something, we can seal off those borders so that our farm vehicles can still get through and do harvest, no problems, and our local deliveries can still get through. But intermodal traffic will actually have to maybe go by the way station and see why they're skipping it. Imagine that, right? And not cut through those corners. And, you know, the problem, I'll say it now, maybe I'll say it later, maybe I'll say both, I don't know. The problem is that this is a county-wide problem. They are destroying the roads, and the more they infiltrate into the county, the more they're going to destroy the roads. And so we may have a little bit of a mill levy at the city level right now to help do our budget and everything that we need. If we don't stop this, you're going to see your county taxes go up. There's no way around it. They're going to have to keep improving these roads because they're not made for this. And so they're going to get tore up, and they're going to have a higher maintenance cost. And we're going to see it not just here locally, but as the whole county. And so the incorporation of Golden is good for everyone, because it really helps to keep that traffic where it's meant to be, keep that development where it's meant to be. Miami County can still have intermodal if they want it, just not right here. This isn't an appropriate spot for it. I skipped ahead, let's see. Okay, road maintenance. The KSA 12-2901, it allows the county and the city to enter into an interlocal agreement to negotiate any additional roads beyond the major collectors that I pointed out that the county will continue to maintain, as well as any roads the city will begin to maintain. I know someone has said that they called J.R. McMahon and he says Golden is on their own and he's washed their hands of us, and that is false. I called J.R. McMahon and I said, someone said this, and he said, I didn't. And so he said, we're very strict right now because the county is trying to keep transparent. If you've had a county commissioner or anybody telling you anything negative or positive about trying to convince you one way or another, they're violating what the attorney has told them to do at the county level. JR said, I can talk to you about interlocal agreements that we have with Fontana and other cities. And I had to submit an open records request because what I want to know is, what were the road costs and repairs and maintenance for the past 5 years, and what were the projected for the up and coming? I know some people complain my road never gets repaired. I want to know what was on the budget, what's coming forward, so that you still keep getting that service. We're saying we don't want anything to change, and so in order to budget for that, we need to know what they had planned for being budgeted. I had to do that through an open records request. He called me the other day. He said it's basically ready, but they have to run it through the attorney first before they can share the information with me. So he said when I get that information back, I can call and talk to him about that, because it's an open records it's not about Golden, it's about the roads. And I can talk to him about interlocal agreements, but he can't talk to me about Golden, because all conversation about Golden has to go through the county clerk's office. And the day they accepted our petition on the record, they said, I don't want any of you talking to citizens privately. I want you to be transparent. We don't start a city all the time in Kansas. This is a new deal for us, and we want to do it right. And so all of that talk is supposed to be going through the county clerk so that everybody hears what's going on. As you write a letter, it's put on there so we can all read. We're part of this. This is part of what Open Records is about, so that there's no secret backroom deals that got us in this place to begin with. And so the problem is, and this is why we can't pinpoint a number. We're trying, but we can't. They can't talk interlocal agreements with us about Golden until we get to that point. So say that everything is wonderful, and we get approved, and we get to go forward, and now we get to the negotiation phase where we say, okay, roads and bridge, let's talk interlocal agreements. Let's talk what you would maintain and what we can do. Theoretically, they should maintain it all because, again, we're saving the money. We already are paying the taxes. We're not creating new roads at all. We're not costing them anything. The only thing that's changing is now we are incorporated as opposed to unincorporated. And so theoretically, there's nothing that has changed except for just that designation. And so they don't have any new expenses or probably saving expenses. But that's all talk we have with them later when they can actually sit down and talk to us. And so if they were to sit down and talk to us right now, it could look at as being not transparent or favoring one side, because some people don't want Golden. They don't want it. And some people do want Golden. And if they were to say, yes, Golden, come in, we're going to keep doing everything, and you're Golden. And the people that don't want it can say, well, that's not fair. You just made that too easy for them. And so they kind of understand the position they're in. And so they can't and won't until we are actually something to talk about. It's the same with laws. There's no laws to write. until we're actually a city that has laws to be enforced, and we have a city council and the people that show up there and say, okay, we want to do truck ordinances, we want to keep our existing development the way that it is, you know, all of these things that can now get pinned on the paper and become official. There's nothing to do on that yet because we are nothing. It would just be writing it down and it's not binding. Rumors and opposition petition. Sadly, there's an opposition petition that came out and it's not true. Like, so much of it's not true. It said we will have over $750,000 a year in taxes. And when I saw that number, I thought, where on earth did that number come from? We're only paying $600 and something thousand right now in our county taxes to the county. So where did this $700,000 come from? And so, by the grace of God, I was looking through an article one day just a week or so ago, and it was referring to a county commissioner that talks about taxes and everything else. And in that, on the corner, there was a thing that says 2018 spending per resident in the county of Miami County with a population of 33,127 people. Spending per resident averages $977 per person. And a little voice in my head said, take that times 776 residents. And I was like, all right. So I took it, $758,152. So I don't know where else it could have come from, but that's pretty close to that arbitrary number that it seemed to me was coming out of nowhere. That estimate, $977 per head that's in here, that's for the entire cost to run the entire county. That's salaries of everyone at the county, buildings, vehicles, equipment, motor vehicle department, the entire property tax division, roads and bridges, appraisers, courts, everything. It has nothing to do with Golden. It will continue to be $977 per person, whether we are Golden or not. I'm sure that number changes by a few dollars every day as people are born and they die. That has nothing to do with what costs we are suddenly going to have to take over. We're not going to have to pay another $977 per resident on top of the $977 that we're paying. It's just ludicrous. This is just a chart that kind of shows you some of the thing from the county budget. So the total budget for 2020 was $23 million and some change. Of that, we have the county treasurers at $264,000, the county jail at $2.3 million, emergency medical at $2.8, employee benefits add up to over $6 million. We're not going to take over the cost of that. We're going to keep paying that in our county taxes, and then we'll have just our extra things that we'll talk about in a minute. The only thing I can figure on the opposition petition that's been circulating, it talks about intermodal in there. And it says the petitioner for the opposition petition, let me tell you, that doesn't say that, I said that. The petitioner, they're not a resident of Golden. We originally had the whole area within what I call the Wings of the Eagle that was all sealed up, we felt like, to be a community and an identity. You know, we've all been, where do you live? Oh, we're south of Gardner and we're west of Spring Hill but north of Hillsdale. You know, we've had an identity, but we've never really had a name, you know, to like, who are you? And so this will help give us that name. But they didn't want to be in it. And I called them and they never answered me. I called a neighbor to the north of them and their wife were originally, let me back up and say, I called a whole lot of the really big landowners before I even called an attorney. What I found to the north, there's a giant chess game going on and the people didn't even know it. There's a lot of land investors that were playing this game for a long time because they've known about this contiguous property and they've been sealing up their deal. And so after being frustrated with that chess game, I called everybody out here, and not everybody, but as many as I could. And I said, what do you think of the intermodal? What if there was a way to stop it? And everybody said, we don't want it, let's stop it. I told them what it would take. They're like, that's intriguing, let's talk more. Tell me what the next step is. I said, well, the next step is we have to get signatures. So we went through that process. The signatures come out. So there's a couple people that said no, they wouldn't return my call. They didn't want to talk about it anymore. And I said, that's cool. We're going to just write out that boundary. It's not about trying to make somebody incorporate that doesn't want to. I don't believe in forcing people to do something they don't want to. But we have this crazy little dance that we're doing right now. It's like, how do you protect the people and still respect everybody's rights, you know? And it's really challenging because if we don't do this, the majority of the people are going to lose. If we do this, a handful of people are going to be mad. And so I'm not interested in forcing anybody. And if you're a big landowner, if you're someone here that doesn't agree with this, I totally respect you. I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't want you to hate me. I just, please understand this is the only thing we have to help everybody, and it could really be a wonderful thing for everybody. We're not against development like the opposition petition says. It was about you can't put a gas station on there, whatever it is. We're looking for smart development that is actually good for everybody. Residential development lots, you're going to get way more for your property by the acre. Hidden Prairie, they sell for $50,000 a lot. The place along 215th Street's 40-something a lot. North Point pays 14 to 17. So yeah, you might get your one chunk right away, but at the end of the day, it wasn't in the best interest of everybody, and you could have got more. And you, even if you don't want to be the one to develop it, you can work with a developer. You can work with the city codes. We can have those large lot subdivisions. It raises the tax base for the city to help keep taxes down for everybody. We still have a rural residential neighborhood where people can come and invest for their futures and know that one day they're going to be looking in their backyard at a big intermodal facility. And so it really is the best for everyone if we can just come together on this. But the problem we had with that opposition petition, and I'm not making accusations, and I know people are friends, it's just I have to make deductions from what I'm seeing. And when it said Golden would forever preclude the opportunity for Miami County as a whole to ever gain a tax base associated with the Logistics Park, KC, Intermodal, and associated commercial business development in northern Miami County. So to me, that says I want to sell to Intermodal, and you just blocked me at 215th Street when you sealed up that land from Core to Cedar Niles, and now we have no contiguous land anymore. Especially since the person that started it isn't even in the city limits. We're not making that person do anything they don't want to do, except for that it mentioned this. And if you look, it's really hard to see here, but if you look on the map, on the west side of Waverly, everything in red, those people are not for Golden. They have specifically either mentioned directly that they want to sell to Intermodal, or they're part of the petition that mentions we're blocking Intermodal. And sadly, and we told this to North Point in the letter we wrote to them from the North Group, you know, the love of money is the root of all evil, and they know that better than anyone. They have paired neighbor against neighbor time and time again, whether it was across that Gardner Road interchange like I showed you earlier when they had an agreement that you buy us all or you buy none, and one guy sells, or you know, and it's not pointing fingers. They know what motivates people. When they come before the city of Edgerton, they say, "Ooh, we got some jobs and some taxes here." Well, they don't tell you your taxes are 10 years down the road. They waive all sales tax. So an $8 million or $80 million warehouse, they don't pay that $8 million in sales tax that would go to the entire state and the schools and the roads and everything. They get to pocket that. And they get 10-year tax abatements, and they pay a very small payment in lieu of taxes. So in the meantime, ask Gardner, and it's going to be ask Miami County in a little bit if we don't do something. Everybody's paying for them, the roads and everything that for them coming to town. The people at North Point and all of their businesses, they're not waiting 10 years for their payment. They're not waiting for their profit. They get it right now, all the time. We have videos that are just disgusting of them rubbing it in everybody's face of the cash they're throwing up in the air, taking 130 employees to Bora Bora twice, bragging about their warehouse paradise, miles and miles of concrete, steel by the ton, the BNSF Railway, that's a big deal we won. 10 million feet now, will it be millions more? The way things are going, I really don't know. And they brag about this in our face. And meanwhile, the residents are saying, please don't do this. This is our home. And they say, if you want to see dark skies, go camping. John Daly from the Planning Commission said that. So, yes, it'll block the intermodal because the intermodal is not appropriate here. It can go along Sunflower Road. It can go along I-35. Miami County can still get that future one-day tax base, still keep the trucks along I-35, and still keep the residents here safe. Again, by the grace of God, we are doing the Miami County Comprehensive Plan right at the same time that this is happening. And so everybody that heard about it, that could make it, showed up to that plan in Osawatomie. And what they had you do, they had you walk around, and they had whiteboards, and you could put up in this area what you wanted or didn't want. And you can put, I mean, Lee, wasn't it, just, and Tim, just for miles and miles, no intermodal, no intermodal, no warehouses, keep it rural. There was red dot after red dot after red dot in this corner that said keep intermodal out. It's a big old no. And the newspaper article, it came out and it said something about, well, well, everybody showed up and they put the red dots. It looks like they want intermodal. And what we all do, we said, no. I think that poor reporter, I think he got inundated with emails that next day, and he said, I'm sorry, I misquoted Teresa Reeves. I'm correcting it tomorrow. And so in that same March 10th article in the Miami County Republic, he corrected it. And it said, red dots on the future land use map represented opposition to commercial and industrial development and a desire to maintain rural character and preserve agriculture. It is clear from the open house and other feedback that residents in the northwestern area of the county are adamantly opposed to commercial and industrial development, specifically the expansion of Logistics Park Kansas City Intermodal Facility and nearby Edgerton. You can clearly see on that map on the northern edge of the county what the citizens are interested in is very clear. We want our agriculture and our rural living to continue, and we don't want it to be mixed with development. We don't want isolated developments out in the country, Boone said. And Boone is the guy that works for Olson that we all paid $125,000 for as a county to come in and help the county do their comprehensive plan. And so this guy is confirming that everything we said and that we're saying now, Miami County, please help us keep this rural. He said, one, you can't serve them. Two, it's really kind of destroys what people really embrace about the county and what it looks like and feels like and what they envision they want this county to be. He went on and said, there's some great options for maintaining the rural lifestyle and also keeping the small town feel in the cities and towns in the county. He directed attention once again to the northwest edge of the county. And you can also see on that edge, the density level that occurs on that map shows what we are calling ag or ag residential, which is mostly agriculture, but also allows for some very large lot residential. And I mean large lots. We don't know what that is yet because we still have a lot of analysis to do. Boone said it could be 20 acres, it could be 80 acres. It's farm said sort of use with ag to allow that use, historic uses of living on your farm. Boone indicated there's also an area designated for rural residential lots. That could be 5 acres, 10 acres, we don't know yet. There's a number in there that we'll settle on, Boone said. It allows you to have residential in appropriate places that can be served with large lot rural residential. And again, the RAPS board is a wonderful resource for that. They know this area like the back of their hand. They can tell us where we can put those in. It would be a fit for the watershed, and then the residents around that can say yes or no that it's a fit for their neighborhood. Boone said residents in the northwest part of the county want to protect their way of life, and he certainly understands why. I am very sympathetic to that, Boone said. I'm sure if I had a home over there, I would not want to be next to an industrial logistics park. There is no doubt in my mind. Boone turned the commissioner's attention to Hillsdale Lake watershed. Hillsdale Lake is your #1 attraction destination. From an input standpoint on revenue generation and impact to your county, it is huge, Boone said. It's also the drinking source for people in the county and outside the county. And so as the #1 resource in your county, we believe that should be protected, he said, because you're only going to get one shot at it. One shot to protect it, one shot to keep it what it is now, one shot to protect an enormous destination that you already have in the county. You know, again, this is all about not only where the county is going to go, but then also future revenue sources and things like that. So they're saying, why would you destroy this? This is a huge revenue source for you. The watershed is so large it covers Miami County and pieces of all the surrounding counties, Boone said. County Administrator Shane Kroll, again, like I mentioned and quoted earlier, raised concern about the county's ability to control the area if large tracts of land are acquired through voluntary annexation. And I won't bore you with reading that again, but it's the same quote, and that's where it fits in context, what I quoted earlier about that consent annexations. How do you stop Edgerton, that 500,000 million square foot facility? That article, one key quote in there. Boone said it is important to do what is within the county's control to protect the resource. They've already told us in Johnson County, they've told us at the state, Kroll has told us here, there is nothing they can do to stop a consent annexation. The only thing that can stop it is an incorporation. So if you can incorporate that unincorporated and then come together as a community to do what it takes to keep what we have and keep making it better and keep that outside influence from coming in and destroying everything, and the county allowing that would be the one thing in the county's control to protect the resource. There is nothing else they can do. I don't know how well you can see it, but Brian Andrews sent me this picture the other day of some stuff there in Ottawa, and then I've got some pictures. At 207th Street between Gardner Road and Moonlight, real nice property where all the white vinyl fences are on the south side of the road. It's been for sale for a long time. It finally sold. It's sold to Bedrock Concrete out of Olathe, and they're just going to have offices there. They're not going to make a big concrete plan or anything. Concrete Strategies does all North Point stuff. But they had a bidding war against that property, we heard, and the one against them wanted to do that, stacking all those containers 3-5 high, so they had storage of the containers. And so one person gets to have those in their side yard, and one person gets to have that as their view out the door. And I mean, say goodbye to your sunrise and sunset, but it's so inappropriate. I mean, this is what we have now. We have our rural residential, we have our families, we have, I mean, all of these pictures are from our area, and that's what we're trying to preserve. We're not trying to take anything from you. We're not trying to change anything. We are trying to preserve this wonderful thing that we have. The opposition petition called us a special interest group that has an agenda, stating, "We are concerned if the City of Golden, Kansas Incorporation is approved, it could set a dangerous precedent that other special interest groups that have an agenda could also request special consideration to form a city to the detriment of Miami County and the overall orderly and economic development of the county. The residents of northwest corner of Miami County and the proposed area of Golden, we are not a special interest group. We are residents trying to stop the special interest groups from coming in. We're property owners. We have property rights. We've been paying property taxes to preserve this area, and we have no desire for these special interest groups to come in and steal everything that we've invested in. We're the ones that have been good stewards of the land and will continue to be, because we do. We love the land. I was speaking to a resident today. I won't name his name, but he's not here tonight, but he had to get to go golfing. But he told me, he said, I didn't come out here, and he owns a lot of land. He goes, I didn't come out here to make an investment on my land and sell it to developers. He said, I make my money in the city, and I come out here to relax and to get away and to have my rural residential life. And he goes, I don't want that to change. He was born and raised here, and he wants to continue to keep it that for his grandchildren. By incorporating, like I said earlier, we'll actually improve this area of Miami County, and the overall economic development will benefit by the incorporation through desirable large lot residential development and the preservation of the watershed. So they'll continue to get money from this. We won't flood it out with all that impervious surfaces. We won't destroy all the wildlife for everybody that goes hunting, because now there's nowhere for them to hide. As we continue to build those large lot subdivisions, now, as I said earlier, we increase that tax base so that we don't have to keep paying more. We can have more home-based businesses that can, maybe we pass a 1% sales tax, and that sales tax helps to cover. I mean, you're paying 8% if you buy in the county right now, you're paying 9 to 12 depending on where you go. We can have businesses collect, they'll be coming from their customers, not from the citizens. If we were to annex any other areas that was a fit for any kind of commercial development, let the businesses pay for some of those taxes instead of giving away the abatements like other cities trend toward. Do more like what Westwood did when Sprint came in. Sprint paid the taxes for everybody so that they could be there. I mean, these developments and opportunities are available. It doesn't always have to be make the people pay, you know? I mean, and that has been the trend, is just, oh, we need more money, raise the taxes. Yeah. There's other options. Yeah.
Would you mind? My back is starting to kill me.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat hunched over. I didn't bring a chair.
Oh, I have one here. You want it?
Well,
you want to pass those out?
You know, I'd like to pass them out. If we could talk just really briefly about I get impatient primarily.
You know the stuff, right?
Well, I know it. I've seen it. She does. Here's what I'd like to do. If you could help, that would be great. Can you help too, darling? Would you mind? I wanted to.
And that's right where we're up to right now.
Right where we're up to.
Yep. So.
I figured. I didn't mean.
Perfect. No, you're good. We have one more slide and we're there, so we can start handing those out.
If y'all don't mind.
And I do have a better chair if you want it.
Oh, that's all right. I got stood up now, so now I don't want to sit back down.
Yeah, I hear you.
Back. Y'all have been real kind and decent about sitting through for an hour, although I gotta tell you, every time I listen to Jennifer speak, she's so engaging. And she knows so much about this area. I will tell you, right, she probably knows more about what's going on in Miami County literally anyone else that isn't trying to make money off of it. So, I mean, she's a heck of a resource for y'all. Please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I'll let him. Oh, pronounce this one. Pronounce.
We may start to run out of those. I was only able to make 60 copies.
Okay,
So
we can
y'all, any of y'all that are
share.
in, you might share.
Okay. Leave them back there. That'd still be me. He's just wanted to hand out these papers. We're getting to the part where you're going to follow along with some charts instead and some numbers. This is what everybody came for. We just had to fill in why we're here for the people that didn't understand so that we can go forward. And while you're looking there, the last thing on that opposition petition that I'm going to touch on, it states, we trust Miami County Commissioners to protect our best interest in property rights. Miami County has already confirmed they cannot stop consent annexations or property rights of small landowners who could potentially be surrounded by inappropriate industrial development. The only thing that can stop consent annexation is incorporation. And again, Olson said that Miami County should do what is within the county's control to protect this area. Unanimous approval of incorporation is within the county's control and is the only decision that's fair and equitable for the greatest good of all and the highest and best use of the area. So what everybody's here for, what's this going to cost, right? Golden has a population of approximately 776 people, a proposed Class 3 city. Annual real estate assessed value is $14,289,320 as certified by the appraiser's office. If we were able to pass a $3 million property tax, which for most people would be about $60, it just depends, and we'll see that on the next page. It would give us $42,868 to operate with on our budget. And again, we talked about we are going to have a bond for our city council members. We're going to have an insurance policy if we get sued, so we have that to cover an attorney. Some basic administrative expenses. We don't have to have a city hall. We can meet in a place that maybe we have better views than down here, but we can still have, we can meet anywhere that accommodates everybody. And so the only thing above and beyond that would be back to those interlocal agreements of what the county wants to negotiate. So future revenue potential, I talked about that a little bit, so we can skip through that. Sales tax and other property tax. About the best comparison we have right now as a Class 3 city is looking at what Fontana does. Now granted, we do have more roads than Fontana, but as far as Fontana has 250 people, and their annual real estate assessed values is only 1.2 million. Ours is 14 million, and so their 13 mil rate, we can do that on 3. If you look at their financial statements, which we had copies of, I don't think we printed them, but you can get them online. They get $16,919 a year in property tax, and they still make their city work. Their annual budget is about $44,000 to $46,000 a year, depending on what the year is. And of that, $24,000 of that salaries, because they have administrative people that work there. They have another $5,700 for utilities and propane for the building that they keep, which we won't have our building right now. And then they have Parks and Rec. And so for less than $10,000, they're doing what we would need to do. And so the extra above and beyond, based off of that 3 mil, we could actually use that for what the county is talking about if there's any of those agreements. Again, we can't get the numbers from them, and so I did the best that I could by just putting some numbers together. So if you turn to the one that looks like this, at our $14.2 million assessed value, the county mill levy is $46.374. So right now, every one of us total combined within that property boundary pays $662 in property tax. Of that, 18.28% of our taxes that we're paying goes toward roads and bridges. So we are paying $121,165 right now to the Road and Bridge Department. There's 1,049 miles of roads in the county per their website. Not counting those collector roads that I was telling you about, but the 14 that would be up for negotiation, that puts us at an average $6,636 per mile. Times those 14 miles, it would cost us about $88,000 if they wanted us to take all of them, and that number was right. But That number includes an average of paved versus gravel. We have a lot of gravel. Those are going to be cheaper. I found an article online, again in the Miami County Republic from November of 2016. It estimated that average cost of gravel road by mile is $2,800 a year. Dust control roads are $6,500 a year. Average for paved is $9,500. And so just doing quick estimation based off of that, if you count all the gravel as gravel and not dust control, you get the number of 92,000. If you count them all as dust control, you get 115,000. So all of that still fits within the 121,000 that we're paying right now. We're not creating new roads. We're not asking for anything new above and beyond what we're currently already doing and paying for. And again, we're saving the money. So again, on the next slide, at that 42,868, 3 mills is more than enough if Miami County does not require additional taxes for road maintenance that they're already performing. The only reason Golden taxes will be raised above 3 mills is if Miami County requires Golden to pay more for those road maintenance in those agreements. Even if they do require more for roads, Golden's tax rate would still be much lower than that Gardner or Spring Hill option that were the only other options to incorporate if they ever could get out here, which they couldn't. So if you look at that page, it gives example tax scenarios. If your property is appraised at $250,000, you got a $28,750 assessed value at 3 mil, you're going to pay $86 more a year to protect your investment. If one number that was thrown out there, and I won't have this exactly so I get that Cora request back, but J.R. McMahon mentioned something about from his budget, those other collector roads might be about a $9 million amount. We'll see that more, but let's just say that they're a 9 mil and then we have an extra mil or two for other administrative. That same $250,000 at a 10 mil would be $288 a year. That 12 mil would be $345 a year. The farmers are protected because your property is assessed so much cheaper because of the ag rates. And so one of the larger farmers in the city, I pulled their tax records and they have 353 acres. Their total assessed value for the current year was $23,000. They would pay $69 at a 3 mil if they would pay $277 at a 12 mil. It is not $2,000 to $10,000 per house like we were being told from the opposition petition. Granted, it is more than we're paying, but we've already talked about why and what we're protecting. Same numbers you can look at for the $500,000. I won't read everything to you, but if you look at the bottom corner, the total revenue at a 3 mil, the city could collect $43,000 basically. At 10 mil, we could collect $143,000. At 12 mil, we could collect $171,000. So if you take that back one from before, the 100,000-ish or so on those 14 extra miles, put in our administratives, there's no reason if we took every single road we'd ever have to be more than 12. Probably 10, hopefully, most likely less if we can get into those interlocal agreements and get it down to the 3 where it should actually be because of the benefits. Again, the cost of remaining unincorporated, earlier I mentioned that 20% value. So if you have a $250,000 home on the open market, but you have to advertise it less for being an intermodal district, you just lost $50,000. If you have a $50,000 home, you've just lost $100,000. Small lots are not desirable for the intermodal because there's not enough room to put 1 million square foot with warehouse, and the developers have told people in Gardner, we're land buyers only. We're not paying you for your house or your outbuilding. And so if you were to calculate, again, your 5 acres based off that schedule, you're going to be getting $75,000 if you hold out for the intermodal. If you're 10 acre, $150,000. And so you're not going to sell to North Point if you have 3 or 5 acres. They're just, unless you're that one property across from Gardner Road was that key piece that they needed to get there. Again, all the costs of remaining unincorporated, you're going to lose your quiet enjoyment, your property values, you're going to lose your dark skies and stargazing, your ability to safely walk and drive the roads, your peace of mind of your children playing freely outside, all your views of the sunrise and the sunset. You're going to have increased truck traffic. You're going to have increased county taxes to pay for the roads, loss of your wildlife, everything we talked about, the drinking water, possibly your firearm hobbies and everything, not to mention your American constitutional right and value of voting for the people who are making decisions for you. We don't get to vote for Edgerton representatives, and they don't think they have to listen to us. Someone asked Donald Roberts, why did you ignore the 100 people that came out and said no to this? And he said there were only 4 Edgerton residents. They all want this. Benefits, we've already talked about them. Minimal outlay in city taxes compared to potential loss of not incorporating. That due process, when you come before your city that you are voting for, they actually listen to you. Having those guaranteed voting rights to vote for the people that protect you, our property values, having a say in that future development, protecting the watershed, and I won't bore you reading those same things I've already been talking about. So Golden, Kansas, we are golden if we can come together and just recognize that this is something that's for all of us, and it's not meant to hurt anybody. So one question during this that I didn't get to touch on, someone said, who is going to enforce the truck traffic, county or the highway patrol? So Wayne Minkley told me that if they're in this area and we have ordinances that are state legal by the state, and they're in the area and there's a truck in our area, they can pull them over and give them a ticket. If we want them to start coming more frequently, again, we can get into that, how often it is and what it would cost. The citizens can call in that truck to his home office and say truck number whatever is on these roads and these are no trucks here, and see if the home office can get that handled. All the drivers say, my GPS sent me here. So eventually they'll quit saying that if they're getting in trouble, because that is a mark on their record if they get in their tickets and everything else. And so it may be something as simple as once the ordinance is in place, the people can police it with that and the little bit that the sheriff's up there. If it's not like that and we need more police force, at that point, that's math. That's something the citizens come together and they either say, Sheriff, what would it cost to get someone to set up here more often? And they look at those numbers and we divide that out versus what we're thinking either the tickets will cost or what the extra fee would be as the citizens as a whole, and then the people decide, do they want this extra enforcement or not? Until it gets to the point where you, down the road, maybe you want your own police force, municipal court. That's so far down the road though. I mean, it just wouldn't make sense at that time when you can pay an extra someone to be up there.
I have a question that goes back to my brother.
Oh, did you? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, if we pay county taxes, why would we have to pay extra to have the sheriff department come down and monitor that?
So,
That doesn't make sense. Why would
exactly.
the highway patrol, when they're down there anyway, because I retired from the scales, I know that.
Yeah.
They can come down there, but they don't.
Can highway patrol be on the state
Yes,
roads?
they
Can
can.
they? Okay, that's a good question. I have not talked to the highway patrol about it. I just talked to the sheriff, and as you guys know, I mean, they never have to come up here. Like we have such a safe area, so.
There's nobody on Gardner Road.
Mhm.
They just fly up and down there.
I know.
And the street is too small to turn on.
Mhm.
And the drivers stop in the middle of the road, they jump out of the truck.
Mhm. They had it blocked that one Sunday for hours. In the green shirt, you had a question.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like some of, I know I'm not the only one that drives a dump truck home, so
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna get a ticket every time I go home.
No, because you are local delivery, if you will. That's part of
They wouldn't know that when they pulled me over.
Well,
I'm being detained for.
One thing they talked about that, and that's a good question, and I don't know. I know some cities have like a citizen sticker or something they show they belong, or what would you say on that? That's a really great question. Thank you.
So one of the things we look at when we put together and I'll give my background here in about 2 minutes after Jennifer's closed out her presentation, and I promise I'm not going to keep y'all here. I mean, I can see people squirming. It's like about the last 4 minutes at church, you know, it's time to get out. I haven't even eaten dinner yet. All right. Short answer to that is every time you do and I mean, I've done them for I myself or one of my family members from way back when. We're all local government attorneys. Every time you do a truck ordinance, you tailor it so that it only addresses the trucks that are coming out of Gardner Edgerton. Okay? You're out of the intermodal facility, right? Every time you draft one, you've always got to make an exception for, let's say, a dump truck. The other thing that's real common that we have to make exceptions for, right? Local grain truck traffic, right? I mean, some of y'all but more successful farmers than we were, and so y'all have to have semis to haul around the grain. Hell, we did it with just a, deuce and a half flatbed, but y'all are living right. So with that, I'm going to send this back to Jennifer, and I want her to wrap up. I'm not pushing
No, I'm
you
good.
to
I'm
do
done.
that.
I've got
So,
one new question that
please.
just came in. Said, is it a reality property owners can opt out of being in town if it becomes a town? We learned of Golden by reading it in the paper. No one came to us. I want to sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart for anybody that we missed. When this thing went live with the petition to get signatures, we understood how important it was to act quickly and get it before the petitioners, because the problem is you have 300 homes you're trying to tell on the same day before someone goes down to the commissioners and they're asking, but more importantly before someone goes to Edgerton and North Point and they start buying up property to stop it. And so we really thought that if we could hurry up, the minimum was 50 signatures. We got 286 because the minimum population is 250. So by having at least the minimum number of the population by our signatures, it confirmed that we have met all the requirements. And we just hurried up and turned in what we had. We had people divide out by neighborhood. One neighborhood person, he ended up getting called out of town and didn't get to you for work. And so we turned it in thinking they would hurry up and get it on and hurry up and be heard, because within 30 to 90 days was the window. They waited 90 and backed it up 2 weeks. And so turns out we had more time than we realized, but at the time we'd never done this before, and we were just trying to hurry up and get forward. And as it was, someone still went down to the commissioners meeting and said, "Where's that Jennifer Williams petition? I want to know." And we weren't even there yet. And so we hadn't even got it turned in. And so we were trying our best to get to everyone. And it's just like with the notice for tonight. You know, the Facebook group didn't have enough people on it. The next door, not everybody's online. We didn't have email addresses and phone numbers, so we literally divided again and went door to door and started handing out flyers. And so that's why it's really important that we do have names and addresses, or we have your name and address, but if we actually have a phone number and an email to go along with that, to quickly get in contact with you, so that if there is updates, we have a way to make sure everyone knows, because this is all about everybody having a voice. And so, and I even mailed a flyer to everyone's home that said, you know, We Are Golden, gave you the website so that we could get everyone knowing what was going on and why. And I was hoping we'd have a response from that, but not as much as we had hoped. And so we're doing the best we can to get everyone involved, and you do matter. And I really, really am sorry if someone didn't come tell you about it ahead of time and you had to read about it in the paper. So I don't have any new questions turned in, so I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Will you be allowed to opt out?
Oh, the opt-out. I'm sorry, what's that?
The opt out.
This is my question too. So the petition as written cannot be changed because it voids the petition. So the current boundaries that are written, that's what we go forth for. I know there are some people that even after hearing the importance of coming together as a unit and saying, Miami County, we want this, still doesn't want to be a part of it. I know people even can't afford on a fixed income that little bit of taxes. And I would hope that someday we could do what Roland Park does, and if people are on a fixed income, those people can get a rebate back for that, but that's the talk down the road. But I mean, they do it in Roland Park, so if you are on a fixed income, let the other properties that are coming and people that are still working, so you're not getting taxed out, because the point was to save your investment, not cost you. But can you opt out? Will the commissioners approve it based on some people getting out?